My name is Gautam Thapar. I'm the founder of EnlightenAI, a former teacher and principal, and an AI fellow at the Teaching Lab Studio. So I'm excited to be with you to share our tools today. The story of EnlightenAI really begins back in my own classroom in Richmond, California. As an 11th grade US history teacher, my students came to me with significant gaps in reading or writing or both. And the only way that I knew to close these gaps was to assign my students very rigorous text to read very often and to have them writing a lot. That meant I was also assigning myself a tremendous amount of grading. You name it, mornings, afternoons, evenings, weekends, holidays, my birthday, I was probably reading an essay. And you know what? It worked. My students made outlier gains in achievement, reversing historical achievement gaps that had plagued our school and community for decades. But there was a catch. It was a burnout mission. By the end of the school year, I'd lost 10 to 15 pounds. I wasn't seeing family or friends. A small bald spot had appeared on the back of my head from the stress, and I was only 23 years old. Unfortunately, this is a very similar story to hundreds of educators I've spoken with over the last couple of years. Even 15 years since I left the classroom, there is still a truth about grading and feedback, and it is simply this. It is a highly effective teaching practice, research proven, but it is brutally inefficient for teachers. And still, each year, we are investing hundreds of millions of teacher hours in a losing battle to grade and give feedback on all of students' work. So, this is the part where I tell you that AI is the answer, right? Well, not exactly. Just because something is AI-powered does not necessarily make it the solution to a very human problem. And in fact, generic AI systems struggle with grading and feedback precisely because it is nuanced. An AI system like ChatGPT or Claude, while excellent, does not necessarily know you, your classroom, or how you grade. That is a nuanced process. So our vision of a solution to this problem is a teacher's assistant for every teacher in every classroom. And until we have an army of TAs flooding our classrooms, we have AI. And we still believe in a vision in which an AI teacher's assistant can be personalized, can learn from and adapt to the teacher the way that a human teacher's assistant would. Let's think back on that. If we really did have a human teacher's assistant in every classroom, how might we leverage that human teacher's assistant as teachers? We wouldn't simply throw our work over the fence and ask the teacher's assistant to bring it back perfectly done. We'd probably have to train this person. We'd have to supply them with details about the task, give them our scoring rubric, and describe what it is we're looking for in student work. We'd have to give them some instructions on what our pedagogical focus is. But even that wouldn't be enough. The only way to really ensure that this person knew what we were looking for and could do it is to actually grade a handful of examples together and calibrate with them. And only once we're confident in their abilities would we release them to take the stack of papers and bring them back to us for our review. That is exactly the process that we have architected at EnlightenAI with our adaptive AI grading assistant, the only AI assistant that learns and adapts to the teacher as they use it. Let's take a look at what this looks like. As a teacher, I've already supplied the AI assistant with my rubric, this one, the New York State Constructed Response rubric, as well as some details about the task assigned to students, the prompt, the text, the sources and artifacts that go with students' tasks. When I start grading, the AI will take a stab at the first submission. But like with the human teacher's assistant, this is going to need some edits. As I edit and refine the scores and the feedback and move from submission 1 to 2, 2 to 3, the AI gets smarter, more accurate, and more aligned with me as the teacher, and more trained up. Once that teacher's assistant is 100% trained and has adapted to my style, and I'm confident in them, I can send them off with the stack to grade the rest of the student responses, not in 24 to 72 hours, but in maybe 24 to 72 seconds. And still, I'm able to review and approve every submission, always maintaining my role central in the driver's seat. This takes the process of grading and feedback from one that is extremely demanding on teachers, one that happens infrequently and potentially unsustainably, to one that becomes practical for teachers on a daily or weekly basis. But if we really had this teacher's assistant in our classroom, We would not only utilize them for the purposes of grading and feedback for major assessments, we would actually have them in class, circulating and providing students with in-the-moment feedback. Because a trained teacher's assistant would be able to provide students with just-in-time feedback and even comment on student revisions. We could train this person in advance, and it could help us to provide more formative approaches for student feedback. This is the process we've architected with our immediate AI feedback assistant. Let's take a look at what this looks like in the student interface. As a student, my teacher has already loaded up the task, the details, and the training for the AI. So when I draft my first response, I'm going to get immediate feedback on demand as well as a draft score. But instead of this being the end of the process, it's just the beginning. I take that feedback and I apply it, a much more rigorous task. I submit again, and I see whether I've improved. And notice in this case, the student has not leveled up from a 2 to a 3 or a 4. It's not automatic. I have to go back to the drawing board, develop my response even further, and I'm able to level up in this single sitting from a level 1 all the way up to a level 3. From a level 2 all the way up to a level 3. This increases the number of at-bats that students get on any given assessment. It means that simple exit tickets that often aren't being read and can be provided with feedback, and all of that feedback is aligned to the teacher's voice. Now, if this teacher's assistant were really, really good, then even after class, we could leverage them for support, particularly with data. And in writing, data is often a black box. But with our data-driven instructional assistant, we can turn data-driven insights into action steps and resources with a few clicks of the button. Let's take a look at how this works. Here, my AI assistant has cataloged all of my students' scores, but it's also going to provide me with trends and insights on each individual student's strength and each individual student growth area. It's also synthesized those trends into a class level, so I can see how students are doing, what they need work on, and some recommendations. At the click of a button, my AI assistant has compressed all of this, not just into a debrief, but into a resource that I can use to implement and target student learning needs. That's all based on data that came from my voice, my insights as a teacher, the feedback that I left, and now can be operationalized the next day at the start of class. We have seen the impact of this tool and this set of tools be profound. The impact of these 3 tools on teachers has been profound. We have seen teachers saying that they're giving better feedback with EnlightenAI on a more regular basis. In addition, teachers are giving more frequent writing practice because they're not intimidated by the amount of grading and feedback that they're assigning themselves. Beyond that, teachers are turning that feedback around to students much more quickly. Timely feedback is a research-proven best practice. And every teacher surveyed at Enlighten says they're saving significant amounts of time, making the job more sustainable and great teaching practice more sustainable. And of course, the impact on students has also been sizable. In the short time that we have here, we can profile Clarksdale Collegiate. After a year of basically flat growth on their writing exam in Mississippi, Clarksdale implemented EnlightenAI, both the immediate feedback tools as well as our assessment tools. They were able to see a 50% increase in student performance on the state writing exam. We would love to work with you to make our mission of making feedback every teacher's superpower a reality. So I'd invite you to visit enlightenme.ai. We are a free tool through the end of the school year, or come find us at booth G20. You can also take a photo of this QR code, fill out the form, and we'll get in touch with you. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your attention, and for joining us in our mission to make feedback every teacher's superpower.